The reason why I even put this here, although obvious, well, at face value, at first glance it does look obvious because you send it here or you don't. But the thing is, there are so many offices around the country that you get very confused as to where you have to send this thing, okay? For example, if you sent the petition, just the petition itself without the rest of all those other applications I mentioned, you'd have to send it to a different place. But if you put them all together, then they go to this place. Okay? So because we're talking about how they all go together with this adjustment of status packet, they go to this place if with U.S. Postal Service and that with any other UPS or. These are all the documents and evidence that are needed to go along with the application. So these are all going into the same envelope, okay? So, proof of the petitioner. So we're going to talk about the petitioner, who would be the U.S. citizen, and then the beneficiary. I'm going to give them titles. Beneficiary is the one who's coming into the country. Proof of petitioner's U.S. citizenship. You got to prove that you are a U.S. citizen. So you can do that by having a birth certificate, a certificate of naturalization, or a passport. Proof of a legal marriage. You got to prove that you guys actually had a valid marriage. So you can do that with a marriage certificate. And if you're divorced, you have to prove that the other marriage was terminated, whether it's a divorce decree or the other spouse died. Proof of a real relationship. This isn't absolutely necessary, but I like to add it in there because it just bolsters the whole application. Basically, you can have an affidavit from a witness. It can be a friend or a relative who saw your whole relationship kind of develop and then was also in attendance at the marriage. So just saying, I saw them first meet and they're such a sweet couple and the wedding was great. Just sign it, get it notarized, and that helps. Let's see. Passport style photos. You need 2 for the petitioner and 6 for the beneficiary. A lot of photos. Proof of petitioner's employment. So you have to prove basically that you are gainfully employed and you're not going to be you're not going to be homeless and bring in another person who's going to be homeless with you. So you have to have pay stubs and a letter of employment. So your boss at work can basically just write a simple letter saying, this John Doe works for us and this is his position and he gets this amount of money and it doesn't look like he's ever going to get fired. See. And then proof of legal entry to the U.S. Now, because we talked about earlier that you have to come into the U.S. legally to be eligible for this type of application, you have to prove that you did come in legally. And how you do that is with a passport, visa, and actually all of these. This isn't an either-or thing. This is passport, visa, I-94 card. I-94 card is the white piece of paper. It's about this size that sometimes gets stapled or just slipped into your passport when you come into the country. Now, what that card is, it basically says you came into the country, you have this much time to be in the country. Let's see, proof of petitioner's income. We were talking about earlier about the whole poverty guidelines thing. You have to prove how much you make by tax returns and W-2s of the last 3 years. And then copy of the beneficiary's birth certificate with a certified translation. So many times, if you're from another country, you have your birth certificate, it's going to be in another language, obviously, so get that translated. If it has both languages, English and your native language, then you can kind of leave it at that. Very common question I get, someone will call me on the phone and just say, how long is it going to take for me to get a green card? And it really depends on what process you're going through. But for this particular process, I can get pretty specific. So through the process of getting married to a U.S. citizen and applying through that U.S. citizen to become a permanent resident, this is about how long it will take, and this is estimates of right now. So this changes a lot, and it depends on the government's workload. It depends on just what the laws are at that time. So these are estimates, and you can get processing times at that website. It's still the same uscis.gov website where you can get the applications, okay? You can get general processing times. So let's say you send in the application, then you receive a receipt for that application in about 3 weeks, okay? Then you have to do a biometrics, so get your fingerprints done in about 2 months. Then you get your employment authorization document, that's the EAD, and the travel document in about 3 months, okay? Then you do an interview in about 6 to 8 months. Again, these are estimates. Then you get your conditional residence at the interview, or within a few weeks you're sent the conditional residence, and then you have to apply to remove the conditional residence to become a permanent resident 90 days before the second anniversary of your conditional residence. Okay, so it's 2 years. After 2 years you apply for this, you will then become a permanent resident. But conditional residence is pretty much the exact same thing as a permanent resident. Okay, it's just that they're just trying to check on whether your marriage is a real marriage. So it's just a temporary time, so they could, there are a lot of fake marriages out there. So, and you can remain in the U.S. while USCIS works on your application. Now, USCIS is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service.